Mabuhay, this is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea, channel about marriage to a woman from the Philippines. And I want to continue this series on when to stop chatting with a Filipina. Yes, there are times when you have to break it off. And let me know if you can relate to any of these, and please subscribe, leave a comment here on Love Beyond the Sea. Today, I want to talk about this, and this comes from a Psychology Today article. The points are theirs, and the commentary is mine. Subtle and not so subtle verbal abuse has become habitual. Now, this is kind of extreme, but I will list some examples here that I can think of. And this is more likely to happen when a foreigner and Filipina have already met and continuing to meet in person. I would be very concerned that this would continue into marriage if you're seeing subtle and not so subtle verbal abuse. I think there's simply no place for this, whether dating or married. If this is happening on the part of either person, it is time to move on and hopefully find out why this happened. But why would this even happen? Well, it happens for sure in long-time marriages, and it also happens in new, very long-distance relationships, like if you're from America, like I was, and you're wanting to marry a woman from the Philippines. You don't want to be doing this to someone, this subtle and not so subtle verbal abuse, and you certainly don't want to be on the receiving end of this sort of thing. Now, here's some examples of subtle verbal abuse you might see when a Filipino is dating a foreigner. For example, this could be him criticizing her about her hair. Maybe he criticizes her about her clothes, her intelligence, for example. That could happen. I think a lot of times the educational opportunities aren't quite the same there. And so this kind of bothers him. Maybe gives her a hard time being a simple woman. He might say something like, you Filipinos should always have your hair straight, always, and long, always. You should do that. Never short, never curly. A guy might try to pressure her into wearing skimpy clothes for him when she isn't comfortable with that, doesn't want to do that, but he criticizes her as if he has some reason deserving anything like that from her. He might drop some unflattering stereotypes in conversation. He might even say things to make himself seem superior to her in some way. That's subtle verbal abuse. He might say bad things about her country or make snide remarks about the Philippines, making his country superior to hers without realizing that she might not see it that way at all. He may tell her how her country can do better and not have so many single mothers and so on. And while he might be right, she probably doesn't care what he thinks about some of these things. Why even go there? I mean, he might overreact to tempo. If that happens, that's the silent treatment, and not know how to best handle that, and during that process end up saying a lot of hurtful things. Now, he might get on her case if she is a little late for chats, which is perfectly normal for her culture. You know, they've heard of Filipino time. He might get on her for not being around when he has time to chat. And this needs to be worked out for both in circumstances like her school and her job. You know, that can change and cause changes to need to be made. Some of you probably can relate to this. And basically, if she begins to feel like his behavior is out of line, making her uncomfortable and grating on her nerves, then she should then move on to someone else, in my opinion. And of course, this kind of subtle and not so subtle abuse can go both ways. And while I'm at it, she might drop some subtle hints that she needs money from him. And maybe her goal all along is to take advantage of him. She might say she loves him a lot in order to butter him up. I think this is strategical. At worst, she's trying to butter him up for money, string him along. And at best, she just, says that because she doesn't know what else to say without risking losing the guy. It's really hard to tell. He's going to have to try to understand which one of those it is. And this giving money or asking for money or even hinting that money is needed is especially egregious to me when it comes up early on, like before you've met or before you've been engaged. And I have said my piece many times about this. Brace for it. She doesn't love you that quickly and shouldn't be suckering you in with talk that she knows you probably just like to hear. It is very self-serving. If done skillfully and subtly, the foreign boyfriend won't even know what hit him. Now, examples of nonverbal harassment include, I think you include this, are like incessantly trying to chat. I feel this infringes on a person's time and may be an attempt to coerce the other into trapping them into an exclusive relationship with them when perhaps there isn't an agreement about what is best yet. Making any sexually suggestive gestures would be inappropriate, in my opinion. Ghosting and then reappearing might be a form of subtle nonverbal abuse because a person's feelings are always at stake if they have formed a strong bond with the other and are holding out hope for a relationship that probably won't work out. Now, some not so subtle verbal abuse, as I try to wrap this up. Verbal abuse is this is the most obvious kind, so I'll spend less time. Verbal abuse is the harmful use of language to control, intimidate, or hurt somebody. It can include behavior such as name calling, belittling, or using controlling or threatening language. If either the Filipino or the foreigner see any of this, they would do themselves a favor by moving on. Neither should be so desperate for love or desperate for a better life that they tolerate this. Arguing, on the other hand, I should say, is that's just a disagreement or a difference of opinion, which is expressed by the parties in a respectful manner. So this wouldn't be considered a kind of abuse. And before I forget, merely going back through electronic communication like your emails or texts, Facebook messages, and the like, can confirm if you're dealing with some kind of subtle or not so subtle verbal or even written abuse, because you'll have most likely one or both of you will have ways to go back and track this if you're not sure what you are seeing to confirm it or not. So let me know what you think about this topic. This is a series about when you should know that you should stop chatting with a Filipino, which nobody likes to do if they've invested enough time in it. But let me know what you think and subscribe here at Love Beyond the Sea.